Hi, I'm Britt,
And my name is Alyssa.
and this is SkeleTales.
And this is the podcast where we strive to answer the age-old question of, is my dead grandma watching me?
Alyssa, today we are hanging out in our wingback chairs with ice cream cones in hand, talking with a very special guest, Anthony Sobotik. Hopefully I said that right. Anthony is the founder and CEO of Lick Honest Ice Cream out of Austin, Texas. Anthony grew up in small town Texas, but now resides in Austin with his longtime partner, Chad. He has a dog named Tanner, and I'm told has some pretty incredible paranormal experiences that he is going to share with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Anthony.
Thanks for having me. Hi.
Did I say your last name right, or did I mess it up?
I think so. Sobotik.
No, I said it wrong. Damn it.
It must have been very close because I don't remember. I've heard so many versions of it, but there's
It's an easy one to butcher.
Yeah. Yes.
We are so happy that you are here with us. So I'm just going to jump right out of the gate. And I want to ask about when you first noticing strange paranormal experiences happening to you.
That's a great question. So I think it's funny because I grew up kind of hearing, I guess. I mean, I've always been kind of been fascinated by it just in general, but and a lot of my stories have to do with my relatives, but things that they encountered. But with me, I would say, I mean, when I was young, I can remember walking by TV and the TV just turning off. And like those sort of things happening, which would be, I guess, a paranormal sort of thing. And hearing people whisper, I'm trying to fall asleep, hearing someone sort of whispering in my ear, that sort of thing. My name usually. So, and I was young. I mean, I guess I remember, I'd say around the age of 8, 9, something like that, where I guess I was more aware of it. So that's probably one of the first memories I have. I'm trying to think if there's anything before then. If I remember, I'll come back to it. But
Did it scare you, or were you just oh, this is normal for me? And
no, well, because even, I mean, I can remember, no, I don't think I would always think that it was something, that it was, I guess I would just think that I was hearing someone whisper in my ear. I mean, I have 4 siblings, so there were a lot of us around. And we're all very close in age, so there was that. But even being in high school, I can remember being in my bedroom and hearing, it felt like someone was standing for sure within a foot of me, just saying Anthony, trying to kind of trying to wake me up. And I thought it was my younger sister, and so because it just to me sounded like her, and she ended up staying at a friend's house that night. She wasn't even home that night. So it definitely wasn't her. And, but I didn't, because my family has so many stories like this. I didn't I was oh, it'll be fine. I was this, no big deal. So, that's my earliest, I mean, those are my earliest kind of memories of things like that. Oh, well, you know what? When I was younger, I can remember that I would feel like I would see shapes, people, or shapes or shadows. And again, I think that you just kind of chalk it up to being you're afraid, you're scaring yourself, or it's something out of you're just seeing it out of your peripheral vision. But I didn't really, and so I didn't really talk about it. I wouldn't really bring it up. Because that's how you rationalize it in your head. And I was the same age. I guess I was 7. I can remember being really young and thinking that I would see someone standing in our hallway, or standing in the utility room. As we were hearing more stories about my mom, her sisters, my grandmother, then my sister and I would start talking about stuff, and we would see people in the same places. We would, and that's, I chalk it up to more than just peripheral vision, that sort of thing, because we were seeing the same things. And even we lived together in college for a year, and we saw the same figure in our apartment multiple times, but didn't talk about it until after we had both moved out, after we were both no longer living there. And
So
so
this runs in the family then. Your whole family is having experiences then, huh?
most of them, yeah. I mean, my mom and all of her sisters, she has three sisters, and my grandma and my grandmother, their mother on that side. We were in a cabin one time in Tennessee, and like I could not sleep. I've like felt really just sort of like I wouldn't even say uneasy, but I just could not like fall asleep. I guess it was in high school, and it was a family trip, and my sister was staying in the same room as me, and there was a pony wall like separating our room from I guess like another living space. And I woke up like at one point of the night, and I like looked up on the pony wall, and there was just like, and I like clearly saw someone sitting like up on the pony wall, like with like their legs crossed and like their arms crossed, just like sitting there like looking down at us. And I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go back. I just like went back to sleep. And so then, because I'm like, it can't really be someone there. Then the next morning we were talking, and my mom was like, how did y'all sleep? Whatever. And I said, no, I didn't sleep great. And my sister was like, yeah, I couldn't go to sleep either. And then I just told them I woke up, and I was like, I swear I saw someone sitting on the pony wall. And my sister was like, me too. Like me, like, she's like, same. Like same location, same whatever. And so yeah, I think I've had a lot of stuff like that happen.
Well, it's got to be validating that you're not, okay, this isn't just my, wild imagination. Someone else is seeing this craziness too.
Yeah, I think I don't really know what it is, but it's just there's like, a manifestation of like energy or just like something, like all of our residual energy we leave behind or something like that. But yeah, it is nice when it's someone has the exact same experience, or like our apartment in college, like we would see someone walking down the hall, like towards the kitchen, and it just looked like a guy in a white t-shirt with like jeans, but we both saw the same. It's not like just a shadow. It's like, oh, that's what I saw. Like there was an impression of that in my brain of what I saw, and for her to have the same thing is comforting.
And those are details. Those are like, detailed knowing, what clothes they're wearing and probably how tall they are. Like those are, pretty specific details too.
Yeah.
Did the person in Tennessee have like, you said I was in an old cabin. Did they look old timey, or did they look like, was it the same white t-shirt guy?
No, it was like, I couldn't like tell you what he was wearing, but it was like I just remember like his arms were crossed and like his legs were like crossed over on top.
But when you're seeing them, you're thinking, oh, that's a ghost, like the guy in your house, your apartment and stuff. Or you said it just doesn't make sense. So you don't really label it.
Yeah. By the time I was in high school, I wasn't like, oh, there's someone in this cabin. I was like, oh, that's not, whatever I'm seeing is not really there. Or like it's not an actual like physical presence. But sometimes it would still like, throw me for a loop. I mean, Chad and I owned a house many years ago. It was our first house we bought, and it was a galley kitchen, and the kitchen window faced to the backyard. It was getting dark, and I thought I saw someone perfectly. I could see like the reflection in the back of me. There was the hood vent was like behind me, so I could see it was glass micro vent thing. So I could see the reflection in the window of that. So and I was looking out the window, and I saw clearly someone walk behind me, like in front, like in the reflection of the microwave. I mean, clearly, and I just thought it was Chad. So then moments later, I don't know, it was a few minutes later, I saw him in the backyard, and I was like, he came in the house then. And I'm like, I didn't even hear you go back outside. And he's like, I haven't been inside. And I was like, you were just inside. I saw you. I'm like, I saw someone walk behind me in the kitchen. And he's like, I've been outside the entire time. I mean, it was like they were wearing some kind of a t-shirt, and they had to be about my height. And they like walked, I saw it perfectly, like right behind me. So, but I wasn't scared, but it just that house had like a very interesting energy. The people who we bought it from had built it in the 50s and lived there their entire lives and like raised their kids there. I loved the house. I loved it. I could feel something in there. And then we found out from our neighbors that he died in the house. The guy who had built it died there. And so,
oh, that's totally who you saw.
But what's interesting is that he was in a wheelchair. And so the person who passed behind me was walking. And so I'm not saying.
Well, if you don't want to be in a ghosty wheelchair person. Like, no.
He was an Army vet, and but it wasn't a bad energy. But when my younger sister came, she had the same. She was like
the reflection thing and everything.
No, just the energy in the house. Like she loved the house, but she was like got a vibe. We got a vibe from it for sure. The place we live now, I don't really get any kind of a vibe from, and I don't think that it's about that even. I mean, like I don't like a lot of stuff happened in my grandparents' house, and they were the people who built the home. So I don't necessarily think it's like tied to a place, or anything. I think it maybe is tied more to the individual or individuals. I really don't know, but there's, I find it fascinating.
Are you a skittish person in general? Because like, I think everything you've described, like seeing a reflection walk behind me, again, I guess you thought it was Chad at that point, but like any of this, I am such a scaredy cat. Like if I'm folding laundry and someone comes home, if it's loud or something and someone comes home, like my husband will come home early, I like freak out. I start crying. Like I'm like scream. I surprise myself like on the brink of tears because I'm like in that moment terrified, horrified. I thought I was alone. So you just seem so chill about this. Like, oh yeah, there's somebody in my hallway.
I'm very easy to scare. I mean, like I'm very like I'm Chad makes fun of me that I'm so skittish, and everyone in my family is, but we grew up scaring each other. So I'm constantly on edge of like, we constantly would hide.
You just do that in big families.
We would constantly hide behind doors for each other. And like my parents would do the whole, like, drive through the cemetery and like act like the car broke down.
I'm going to do this. We've never done that. Have you done that, Britt? This is a great idea. Do they do it at night? Do you do it at night or in the middle of the day? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, my parents would we'd be all in like the living room. I'm trying to remember what room we were in. I know they did this at least once, that they shut off all the power to the house. Like they like flipped all the breakers, and then like we went to go find them and they had gone outside, and then they were like knocking on windows and stuff, and then like they scared the crap out of us. I mean, like, but you know what? When you have 5 kids, whatever it takes to get through it, I guess.
Truly.
So
that's hilarious.
It's been a while since that's happened, and it's usually by the time I realize like it wasn't Chad, or like, oh, that wasn't my sister walking down the hall. It's kind of like, well, there's obviously no one in here. For some reason, doesn't really bother me. By the time I was in college, I had heard, the stories of like my mom and her sisters and my grandma. So I was, I guess, way more comfortable with all of that. But my grandma must have been like, my mom's mom must have been very just like dialed in to this also. But like my mom she would be when the house that she grew up in, like hangers would levitate off of the door handles. Like they would like, just like, and it would look, according to her, like someone just like was picking it up and, holding it up and then it going back down. What's interesting is that she didn't talk about it until I was in college. And we just happened to be talking about this. My younger sister and I happened to be talking about it with some of our cousins, who were then like, oh my God, called their mom, our aunt, over, was like, yeah, the same thing happened to her. Like when, like in the exact same house. But the sisters had never talked about it.
Never talked about it before.
Like collectively.
Gosh.
And so they would have things like that happen with just the hangers. My mom would stay at her aunt's house a few towns over and would get up in the middle of the night because like the radio was on, would just like turn on. And then she'd be like walking down the hall back to the room, and like the faucet would be on in the bathroom. Like just like the bathroom off the hall, like the faucet would be on. And I don't know why we're just like, okay, I'm gonna go back to bed. Like you're just like which I'm sure she didn't. I'm sure she would lay there like, but it happened, I think, a couple times, if I remember correctly, like that sort of stuff. So I think that side of the family just has some kind of like energy vibe thing going. My grandma would see visions of, I think it was her mother died relatively young. I think it was either her mother or her stepmother, like in a mirror, like in mirrors, would see like visions of her. Very just like interesting things like that. And
wow.
So when I would hear those stories, then I'm like, seeing a reflection in a microwave is like no big deal. Like compared to stuff like that.
What would you say are some of your most memorable experiences that you've had.
So for sure, my aunt, my mom's eldest sister, had a home that was haunted. And so she would, once they moved out, the house was like abandoned. And my younger sister and I, who were super close in age, were getting more and more just like into all of this. I mean, just like, whatever this is. And so 2 years in a row for my birthday, because my birthday is October 29th. So like Halloween weekend.
Oh, nice.
So 2 years in a row, we went and stayed in the abandoned house. And my aunt had told us tons of ghost stories, and we took friends with us. So it was a group of like 10 of us. And my aunt had told us all these stories by this point through high school and college about what had happened in this house. And so just random things of like keys disappearing and then like never finding them. And then months later, pulling something out of like their deep freeze that had been, and the keys were like frozen in, I don't remember what it was, but like a pack of tamales or something, like random.
Whoa.
that predate, like, and the tamales had been in there since like before. And obviously it's kind of hard to just like drop keys when you're making tamales. But random things like that, and just like finding things that she had lost that were then like tucked between the mattress. And this is like, and she didn't have like children in the house anymore at this point. But the backstory there is that they bought the home, and she would see from their back porch, like out the back window of the house, she would see a guy walking through the backyard. And they didn't have their backyard was not fenced. And so she figured it was someone just like going home, like after work or something like that. Then when she was at work, she was talking to some of her coworkers, and they're asking how she liked the house and everything. And she's like, great. And she mentioned the guy walking through the backyard. They were like, oh, what does he look like? And she described him. And apparently the guy who owned the home before her, she basically described him very closely. And he had killed himself in the master bathroom. So, I mean, yeah, so that's kind of intense. So that's kind of heavy. So she thinks that it was his, she thinks it was his energy. I mean, like that was, or whatever, the energy, the spirit, whatever that was there. And they had multiple, cabinets opening and closing, and, seeing shadows, very distinct shadows, like in their house. And it was experienced by her and my cousins. A lot of whistling in ears as like you're trying to fall asleep.
Quick question.
Yeah.
With the fellow walking in the backyard, after she discovered that it was most likely the previous owner, did he stop walking in the backyard, or did it continue? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Whatever was happening there did not end. I don't know if her seeing him continued, but all of the other things would keep happening. Just like random stuff being put out of place. All the other stuff happened then after that, of just like finding things like between the mattresses, under rugs, all of that stuff kept happening. But he wasn't, I think she called him like a friendly poltergeist, or which I don't know if that's like a technical term. That's what I remember her referring to that as. And then when we were in college, we were like, yeah, let's go stay there. Sounds fun. And so it was like 10 of us. We went, and there was no electric or anything like in the house. We took sleeping bags. We stayed in there. And my younger sister, who I don't know why she did this, took a Ouija board, and like her and like her best friend at the time set up the board, and they were doing it in the bedroom, like the master bedroom. And I was like, peace and blessings. I am not participating in that.
That was going to be my question. I was hoping someone did a Ouija board out there.
Uh-huh.
And so they, I think, had some success with the Ouija board. We would go to sleep, and you would very clearly hear, it's an old house, from the back door. You would you didn't hear the door open, but there were wood floors, and you would very clearly hear someone walk from the back of the house, the back door, through the kitchen, through the dining room, through the entryway, and then just stop at the room we were all sleeping in. It happened multiple times. It was like every time it would get quiet, you would hear something like that. And then you would hear, I think we heard a cabinet door shut, like slam once. But with my sister, she was like, every time she tried to go to sleep, I could just like feel someone like breathing like on the side, like they were so like they were so close to her. It scared, I mean, like it scared the shit out of her. I mean, it totally, that Ouija board was like, I think it was in the trunk of her car, and she would like not even touch it. Like it was in there for months and months and months and months because she was like so freaked out by it. That happened, and like we never saw him, we never saw anything. You would hear him, I mean, it was clear. It sounded like someone wearing boots. It would just walk straight into the room where we were all staying.
And everyone heard it?
Everyone heard it. All 10 people that were there, every single one of us heard it. You could hear the cabinets.
How did not all of you just run out of the house immediately?
I don't know. And I was thinking, like, after the fact, I was like, this is why I guess scary movie, like, I always would make fun of, like, well, one, we were all driving together. So it was like, there were two vehicles. So it was like, either we were all in agreement that we were going to leave, or it was like, we were going to stay. And so I guess we just, we were young and we're like, we're just going to stay. And we were also drinking, full disclosure. So didn't want to be drinking and driving also. I think if anything beyond that had happened, we would have left. I mean, like, I think if anything, if we had seen a figure or something like that, I think we would have been like out of there. I guess you can rationalize it in a way that it's like you're just hearing these sounds and then they're kind of, it's going away. But my sister was completely freaked out. And we did see, it looked like from the middle of the house, like the dining room or the master bedroom, that there was a light on, which there was no electrical service to the house. And then come to find out and then after that, talking to my aunt, the neighbors had not complained, but had noted to her that it sometimes looked like there was a light on in the house. And so she thought maybe it was people just like, kids getting into the house and just like hanging out because like an old, house, whatever. I don't know if there was someone in there, they like very quickly ran out. And it also would not explain the footsteps of like, I mean, it was like they walked into the room.
I feel like if the apparition had appeared, you and your sister would have been like, whatever, it's fine. No big deal.
I don't know. We've never
that happens all the time. And everyone else would have been like out of there.
We've never had anything with like so much notice. So like something happened with actual notice. So I think it would have scared me for sure. I mean, to hear the footsteps and to see someone standing there, and I think that would definitely scare me. So, but so as far as me personally, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of things like that have happened. I mean, besides like electronics turning on and off and like, that happens in my car regularly. It's been probably 6 months or so since it's happened, where just like everything will turn off. Like my grandma would see things. She would have like, one time my mom was still in high school and she was traveling back from Houston and like was super emotional, had gone to visit, I think like kids that, had like severe special needs, and was just like, she was like very moved by it and really emotional. And my grandma and my aunt were at home, saw my mom walk through the front door and like didn't say a word and like go to the hall, turn and walk back to her bedroom. And before they could like get up to like go check on her, the phone rang, and it was my mom they had stopped on the way home from Houston, and she was just calling my grandma because she was like so emotional about all of like the stuff that she had like about like that day and just like spending that time with those kids. So anyway, I think they both saw my mom like somehow in my mind like missing home or whatever so much that like manifested herself there. Like they both saw it. And
classic doppelganger.
Yeah, like, is that what that's called? Like I don't even know what that's like.
Yes. And the fact that your aunt and grandmother both saw her is pretty fascinating too.
But that's not a good thing. It's like
no. If you see your own doppelganger, that's a bad omen. If somebody else sees it, yeah. If you see your own doppelganger, you see your own self, it's a sign that you're going to die. But if somebody else sees you, like your double self or whatever, then
There's only 50% chance you're going to die. That's what I hear.
I've never heard that. That's really fascinating.
Normally, yeah, the doppelganger normally is like looking off, not communicating or responding to being talked to at all. It's usually just almost like a residual double self or something. I don't know even how to explain it, but that's fascinating that your aunt and grandmother both saw it.
That's so interesting. Yeah, they both saw it.
It's almost when you like think about somebody and then the phone rings and it's them, but they're like, your family gets like full body manifestations of these thoughts.
The thinking about someone and then hearing from them happens to me all the time. Like I would say almost like on a weekly basis, And it happens in business, like where I'm like, I was talking about a client, a potential customer last week, and I was talking about them on a Tuesday, and I have not had communication with this business owner and their director of ops. They want to do like a collab with us for all their locations. Brought it up in a meeting with our wholesale director, and I was like, I need to reach back out to them. I know it's been a really long time. That was Tuesday. Wednesday morning, walking the dog, I got a text message from both of the two guys, and I have not had a text message with them. It was almost 3 years to the day, since we last had that conversation. And it happens like all the time. Like if I'm super stressed or something like that, like my grandma used to call me, or like my aunt who saw my mother come through would call me. And be like, I've just been thinking about you so much today, and have just been like, I just want to make sure like everything's okay, because like I just like cannot shake you from my mind today. So we're all, I feel like, very still interconnected.
Yeah. You guys have the sensitivity for sure.
I love that. Like, I feel like I've got more, that's if I've never seen a ghost, but like, I definitely have more of that intuition, or I put something out there and then it happens, or, I'll think about somebody. But 3 years later, I thought you were going to say like a few weeks, but 3 years to bring it up. And then
I literally said, I need to connect you with the founder and his ops director. And I said, I don't even know if the ops director is still there, but I need to connect you. And it was the next morning when I was walking the dog. And like it happened a couple of weeks ago. A friend that I was driving through, we have some land in the country. And I was like, they also like, we've talked about the land, and just, I was like, it was a beautiful sunset. I was like, I should send this photo to them. I was like, I should just like reach out to them, talk to them, whatever. And it was that evening. I got a text message from them of like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Like, like, let's get together soon and do it. And I'm just like, that is insane. And if not every week, it's like every other week. That if I will think of someone, and within a day, usually I get a phone call or a message or some kind of something like sent from them. I used to know when the dairy inspector was coming too. So it was like I would wake up in the morning and be like, I bet the dairy inspector comes today. And I would text the kitchen, and they're like, she was just here. They're like,
so you get that intuition. Yeah, it is. But like you get that intuition, and even if you don't want it to be right, like something inside you like knows you're right? Like, you're like, shit, the dairy inspector came today. Not something you want to happen.
My grandma was like this, where she would, my mom's mom, where she would like have, she had a premonition once of my aunt, I guess, being dead. I think that she saw her like laying in a casket, so she like immediately stopped and like started to pray. And then my aunt called her. Within minutes later, there was like an accident where she worked, and some people around her got hurt, but she was like, I think she had to go to the hospital if I remember correctly, but she was really shaken up over it, but she wasn't hurt. Like she was far enough away that like she wasn't affected by whatever had happened. But my grandma full on had the like premonition of like something was going to happen to her, and then something happened like right next to her.
Like she very well could have been injured or killed in the accident.
My mother-in-law, my husband and his sister were driving home from some concert late at night back in New York. That's where we're from. And had one of those, laying in bed, ready to go to bed. And then all of a sudden sat up straight and was like, stop, or something, like yelled something like, oh my God. And then at the same moment, they were like almost sideswiped someone. I forget exactly. They ran a stop sign, but they came home and they're like, oh my God, we almost got hit by a car or something. She's like, what time was it? And it like lined up perfectly that she's just like living her life and suddenly had that, like, she knew something was going on. I don't know if she had a visual premonition along with it, but it's like, yeah. I mean, is it because you're related? I wonder, right? Like, is it that interconnectedness between family?
I don't know. I think it's so, I find stuff like that so like just insanely fascinating. And Granny would always know, like she'd always have like a good sense when like someone was pregnant, which is also like very interesting. And I got like a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Like two office managers ago, she called us in. She's like, I need to tell y'all something. And I'm like, are you pregnant? And she's like, oh my God, how did you know that? And I was like, I just had a feeling you're pregnant. I was like, I just had a feeling.
Just word of wise, in general, it's not a good idea to ask a woman if she's pregnant.
I only say it when I feel very confident. And they were like early. This has happened twice with people that I've worked with, and I'm like, I get a vibe, and I'll tell Chad, I was like, I think so and so's pregnant, and he's like, why? And I'm just like, I just think, and then it's like they're pregnant.
What is that? It's not really a psychic ability. It's like intuitive knowing.
I think it's an intuition. That's what it sounds like to me. You are like an electric person. Like you and electricity and electronics don't mix. You kind of mentioned that when you go buy a TV, it will turn off. Can you tell us on air now, I guess, a couple of the other things that have happened to you?
I mean, yeah, I can show you one right now. My phone's doing this thing that I don't even understand what it's doing. Like, so I have a photo for the back, like my wallpaper or whatever. And for the last 4 days, it's just black. Like I can't reset it. And like the computers freeze all the time, and like I take them in, and people look on, like we have like IT look on the back end, and they're like, I've never seen this, and I was like, I mean, get in line, like every single time that happens. My phone freezes all the time. I mean, this is a brand new phone. Like I've barely had it. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Yeah, TV's turning on and off, which has not happened as much lately.
Well, you were telling us before we recorded that like on your car, like the whole panel, like literally everything just shuts off.
Everything will go off. Yeah. I mean, like everything. And it's happened in multiple cars that I've had, but it hasn't happened recently. And then I take it in and they're like, we were unable to replicate it, or whatever, like while they have it. And yeah, that happens where just the whole panel, everything just goes black. Like I can't see like what speed I'm going. I can't there's like.
Do you feel like energized, like you're sucking the electricity out and all of a sudden you're like, got a little buzz? You're like,
I wish. When we rented an old house in West Austin for a while. And that's where more often the TV, it was happening on a more regular basis where it would just turn on and off. Like when I would go by, and a lot of like electrical issues there in general. But it was a much older house. We found out that there was like, a family that had lived there that had like 6 kids, like this tiny house. And it might be a combination. It doesn't explain the car. I don't understand the car thing, but there were multiple things that happened there. Like we had a friend who was watching our dog while we were gone, and he came in one day and the dog was in there, this old house, and the bathroom was between the dining room and the bedroom. So like you had to go through the bedroom or through the dining room to get to the bathroom. The only bathroom in the house. He walked in to get Tanner to get the dog, and the bathroom doors were closed and the light was on. And he was like, that's weird. It's like there's someone, why would they do that? But he just took Tanner, came back, let him back in, and when he went back inside, the light was off in the bathroom. I don't, and that house had some very interesting energy. That house was like, I don't know, like what was going on, but it wasn't like I was afraid, but it wasn't, and I wouldn't call it heavy. It was just like thick. Like there was just like this kind of like thing happening, but it was a very stressful time in life. We had just opened the business, and so stress was high. And I oftentimes wonder if there's like a correlation between that sort of like heavy negative stress, I would say, like a negativity, and those sort of things happening, because it's been a while since I've had that kind of stuff happen on a regular basis. And so I should look more into it, but I feel like it happened a lot more during stressful times in my negative, stressful times in my life.
We recently interviewed a clairvoyant medium, and she said that electronics there's something funny with electronics. And literally during our interview, I think the Alexa went off 2 or 3 times, and she's like, there it is. Like, I think with your sensitivity, it's probably not uncommon that you are having such strange electrical phenomenons happening.
Well, I wonder if it's like a fight or flight sort of thing too. Like you're extra sensory, so you're noticing everything. Like you're on the defense, kind of like you're so highly stimulated that extra responsive to all the stimulus.
That could be it. I mean, because I one thing I do way more than I used to do is like just sit still. And I don't even do it. I don't think enough, but maybe that's part of it, is that there was just like nowhere for anything to go. And so maybe that's it. I don't know. But like now I try to just sit still and just sort of like refocus if I'm feeling super stressed, or so it doesn't really ever go to like a negative place, because I feel like I'm taking the time to kind of process it or work through it, which I used to never do. Like I would just spiral, into stress. And so that could be part of it.
So Anthony, are there any other strange, unexplainable experiences that you would like to share?
Oh, I mean, no, I mean, it's just been little things throughout like my whole, like I lost my wallet once. This is like such a small, like random past story. Like I lost my wallet once. I like ripped my room apart. Like I looked like under my mattress. I looked everywhere, could not find it. Left the house, went over to see friends. I came back home and like it was just sitting on my dresser, just right up on top, sitting perfectly on my dresser. I mean, could it have been one of my siblings just totally messing with me? I mean, maybe, but I really don't think that it was. Just random things like that have happened kind of all through my life, where for sure it was not just sitting on my dresser. There's no way I missed that. So
I wanted to know if you think that, have any of these entities or spirits or whatever you are seeing, like I really think you guys have something with like EMF or electromagnetic frequencies. It seems like you're seeing energy and connecting with energy that's there, but not all of us can connect to it or see it in the way that you're able to. But have they ever like tried to contact you? Do you feel like they want something for you or want you to like send a message or anything like that?
Selfishly, I've never thought, are they trying to send something out beyond me? You know, I mean, like, I think that maybe sometimes I don't know. I think maybe like, trying to guide me through certain stuff and different things, but I don't really know. Like I've had times where I feel the night that my mom's mom died, it was kind of close to Christmas and it was the beginning of December. And I was just like, she was sick. I mean, and so we knew that she didn't have a long time to live, but really had no idea like when exactly it would be. And so, and I was incredibly close to her. I was just like, we were putting up Christmas decorations, me and Chad, and I was just like a wreck. I mean, like would just like kind of like start. I wasn't really even necessarily thinking of her, but just like it was just almost couldn't. And I've told Chad this before. And I've heard this from my mom and my sister, is that there's times that like I almost can't even, I get so overcome by just like a wave of just feeling or emotion. And it does not have to be tied to like one specific thing. Like there's not one thing in my head that's making me feel that way. And usually within that day or the next day, something major in my life happens. Like, it's almost like I can feel something building, and I'll tell Chad, I'm like, there's something coming that's going to happen. There's a change coming. And I just know it because of just how I'm feeling internally. I don't know if this is making sense. And so it was like,
but you felt this as you're wrapping presents?
I was putting garland down the staircase, and like, I just lost it. Like, I just like couldn't, that was like at 8 p.m. and she died like at 3:00 in the morning that morning. And I like woke up. I don't even know if the phone was ringing yet. I just like woke up and I was like, she's gone. I immediately knew she was gone. My mom, and then like my mom called, and I think I even said, I was like, I know. I was like, I know. And like, I was like, but it's like, we're so like I don't know like what that is, but I could just feel it. It's like things build up and then that happens. And I I feel their presence her and my other grandmother very strongly sometimes. I mean, I was in church one time and I just was like overcome with emotion, and I looked down and it was like as clear as like I couldn't, it's like it wasn't a physical hand, but I could just like see my dad's mom's, like I could just feel her there, like my grandma Hilda. It was like as though she was standing right next to me. Like it was just like such a clear sensation of her being there. And maybe tons of people feel this. I don't know, but like it happens within the business too, where I'll get really amped up and I don't even know what it is. And I'm like, something's going to happen. And like the next day, something great happens or something really bad happens.
Yeah. You don't have a clear picture. You're just like something.
Does anything catch you by surprise? You said you're startled, but if you have a sense for everything.
No, yeah. I mean, stuff still catches me by surprise. I mean, part of it is like, I think having owned a business now for 12 years where it's like you're just so much stuff is thrown at you. Yeah, less and less stuff, I guess, catches me by surprise. So
do you shock things a lot? Like, do you get a lot of electric shocks?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I throw sparks, literally throw sparks. Like,
you do?
Sorry, what?
So I've seen my mom and my sister do it too. Yeah. Where it's like you can visibly see like a like it just goes like.
Okay, this needed to have been brought up much earlier.
Just like a tiny little, just like
what? Other people don't do that, Anthony.
I mean, occasionally you get like you rub on, the static electricity from a carpet or something, but like I can't tell you the last time I've been sparked by something.
It doesn't happen. I mean, it doesn't happen often. It happens more like I've done it. Yeah. And I've seen my mom and my sister do it for sure.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Okay. Are you ready for your diagnosis then? I've come up with it.
I'm a light bulb.
Conclusion diagnosis.
I actually did look up because I feel like what you were saying about just electronics malfunction around you. I'm like, I've heard like this happened before to people. And so I just Googled very quickly. And the first thing that came up was the Weird Science database of electric people. And it's the same. There's two kinds of electric human phenomena. One involves conventional static electricity and the other is something more mysterious. If you don't get constant shocks when touching either people or metal objects, yet electronic devices often fail in your presence, then your problem is not strictly electrical. Instead, it seems to involve something which resembles hand-on healing or psychic powers.
Ooh, that's what you have. I know it.
Princeton University is researching the non-electrical effects which minds could have on electronic devices. For info on human sparking, go here. I'll send you the link. I don't know, but like you definitely sound like
human spark. All that's in my head right now is the Katy Perry fireworks song.
That's hilarious.
And the other thing is like I've had three very legit like near-death experiences. My earliest one was I was 7 years old because my brother was a baby, and this is kind of like an embarrassing story, but it's on brand for me. I was eating a hot dog and I kneeled down at my grandparents' coffee table and I had taken too big of a bite, I guess, of a hot dog, and it lodged in my throat. And like my grandpa had to do the Heimlich on me. Like it took 3 times for it to be successful, but they were like, damn. I had already like turned like blue or whatever. And so I would consider that like a near death experience.
Yeah.
So then after that, not long after that, I was swimming at the beach and my sister and I got swept away by the current. We're like, I mean, we were going to die. We were just like, we got swept out. We were away from everyone else, like, which we shouldn't have been doing. But we grew up going to the beach and I'm sure that gave us like a, whatever false sense of security. Yeah. But I think it was very close after this. We got swept out into the water. I think it was my uncle who came out and who ended up coming in after us. But we were getting swept away and I was literally I can remember it vividly. She came and grabbed me and then got on my back and had her arms around me. And I was just like grabbing into the sand, and I randomly found a cast net that was buried down into the in the sand, and just held on to that. That saved our lives.
So your sister's holding onto your back.
Yeah.
You're grasping for rescue, and you find a net in the sand.
I just found a net. We were so far out from shore that I was I couldn't even almost keep my head up anymore. And then I just randomly found this net that we were able to grab onto. And then when I was 14, I was in a car accident that was I was the only one out of the four of us that wasn't injured in the car accident. And besides the driver's seat, we were in a Jeep. I tried to sit in every other seat within the car, and someone kicked me out of that seat and put me into the other, into this other seat. Just completely random, very, very sort of situations which I feel I always thought everyone was everyone chokes on a hot dog. Or everyone almost drowns. Or
no, not everybody almost dies 3 times.
Britt has almost drowned, just in a very similar way as you just described, and she's talked
Really?
about it. Yeah, on the podcast too.
In Texas at Lake Ray Robert, my dad was having a work party, just a lakeside work party, and one of his employees had brought a boat. And it was just a dinky little boat, but he brought the inner tube, and all the kids were like, yeah, we get to go tubing, woo! The boat refused to start. Nothing. So we're bummer, And so my brother and I are hanging out in the inner tube that's usually supposed to be pulled by the boat, hanging out on the shore, playing, goofing around. And we look up and realize that we're in the middle of the lake. And they're it was pretty windy day. So the waves were pretty big. I was 9 and he was 7. So pretty young. And so I'm okay, well, let's start paddling back. And so we reach our tiny little arms in, and we're paddling to go, and the wind swooped the tube out from underneath us. And so here we are, and I'm asking myself, what do we do? He's we yelled for help, and we're literally in the middle of the lake. So we're okay, we're help. There's no way anybody should have been able to hear us on the shore. But somebody heard us, and they ran and got a grown up. The guy who owns the boat ran to his boat, turns the key, shoot, it starts right up right away. And he's able to get to us in enough time. It was my brother got on the boat and basically threw up loads of lake water. We were moments, seconds away from drowning. So we get back to the shore. My brother and I go up to the camp place where my parents are, and we're shaken. The guy is well, great, the boat's working, come on, let's go tubing. So he goes back down to his boat, goes to turn it on, refuses to start again. Did not start.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we should not be alive.
No, that's I'm happy you are. I'm happy you are.
Right?
But I have one of those. You have multiple. That's wild.
Was the sister that was on your back the one that also has experiences that sees the same stuff as you?
You guys are connected.
The one that I'm very, very close. Yeah. No. Yeah.
All right, Anthony. So tell us about Lick. How did you get started with the company, and how can we get our hands on some of the incredible goodness?
Well, we started Lick, Chad and I, 12 years ago. Is it going to be? Yes, it'll be 12 years ago this fall. So we make everything from scratch. So from the ice cream base itself is a proprietary blend, and then we have a team of small team, only 8 people, believe it or not, but they make everything themselves by hand. So it's all super clean and super honest. So that's why we call it honest ice creams, but no palm oil, no corn, no soy, none of the bad stuff, all the good stuff. And yeah, we focus on seasonal flavors. So we buy primarily from family-owned farms. I'd say almost exclusively now from family-owned farms, and that's our goal. So we'll do some super seasonal flavors. Like right now we have it's citrus season in Texas. So we've got a lot of citrus flavors like garden lemon, and cilantro lime is coming, and Soon we'll have sweet cream and strawberry. But yeah, so we have 7 shops throughout Texas, Austin, San Antonio, and College Station. We'll be opening in Houston in June. So two shops in Houston. And we ship nationwide.
Hell
so you can
yeah.
go to ilikelick.com and go to the shop section and you can order little pints of ice cream.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw one that was carrot cake, which like had cream cheese frosting and stuff. Like I've never eaten carrot cake ice cream before, but I love the idea of it. It sounds
The carrot
so
cake
good.
that's a very interesting one. So we switched it a couple years ago, and it's a locally made cream cheese, which is just amazing. And then we use locally grown carrots. And so we get a lot of purple carrots. We just use what they grow. And so it's got this like lovely sort of like, I wouldn't call it lavender, but somewhere between lavender and purple, with like little flecks of carrot in it. And it tastes just like so it's gluten-free also, but it tastes just like a bite of carrot cake.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. The team did an amazing job with that. It's a really good one. Highly recommend the carrot cake.
What's your favorite flavor?
Of all time, it's cilantro lime.
Ooh.
There's it was the first flavor that I created specifically with Lick in mind. So as a caterer and baker before opening Lick, and that was the first flavor that I was like, this to me really feels like Texas, like in the spring or summer. You know,
Yes.
It's delicious. And I also, I think, just have like an emotional attachment.
Yeah. It's very Texas flavored.
I love this, both cilantro and lime, so I'm sure I would love it too.
So we have one final question
All right.
that we ask all of our SkeleTalk guests. And that is, what 3 objects would Alyssa and I need to bring to a seance to summon you from the afterlife?
I think I just thought, okay,
You're going to write it down before you tell us.
He's changing an answer.
I gotta look at it and see if this is like this is what right away came to my mind. So I would say the Immaculate Collection by Madonna.
Nice. Love it. I'm there.
Like something from my dog, probably like his collar or like a bandana or something like that. And then the last thing is like a piece of cake. Like a piece of like Italian cream cake or carrot cake or something.
Yes.
This one's
Oh my God. Okay, so we've got Madonna playing on a CD player. Okay, fine. An iPad. iPod? How do you play music? And we've got Tanner's bandana and all the cake. All the flavors.
I love cake, even though I make ice cream. I'm a sucker for a nice layered cake, especially like carrot or Italian cream, or those are my top 2 picks probably. German chocolate.
Do you have an Italian cream ice cream yet?
We don't.
Get on it, Anthony.
Yeah.
I saw Texas sheet cake ice
Oh
cream.
yeah, we do. Yeah, that's a good one also.
Yeah. And it made me wonder what Texas sheet cake is.
It's a chocolate cake, just like a sheet cake that some people do it with a white cake. But so I grew up with chocolate sheet cake, so thin, and then you pour a glaze over the top that is like butter, cocoa, vanilla, and then you add pecans to the glaze.
Ooh.
So, and it's like, it's easy to eat like the entire pan of it. Because you're just like, oh, it's just so thin. It's like one, like, and then you just...
It doesn't count when it's thin.
Yeah.
That's a good flavor too. I'm thinking I should have said like a picture of my family also, like for the seance.
Oh, no. We need Madonna first.
They'll be there. They'll join in. We'll just invite them to the seance and
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
everyone's going to want to see you.
I've definitely never been asked that question.
Well, that's what we bring. SkeleTales. Anthony, is there anything else that you want to talk about tonight?
No. What else would I have to talk about? Oh yeah, there's just one more thing I wanted to say.
What is it?
Haunt y'all later.
Hi,
Haunt you
y'all
later.
later. Good night.
Good night.